Hey everyone, welcome to the Divorcedispatcher, where we dive into the wildest, most unbelievable stories of divorce, breakups, and family drama. Stories that'll leave you speechless. Stay tuned until the end of the video. Today we have an interesting story of Brandon.
Brandon, 35M, and Vanessa, 32F. When I first met Vanessa, I had no idea how much she would change my life. It was a strange time for me. I was coming off the back of one of the most painful breakups I'd ever experienced. My ex had cheated on me with my best friend, and the betrayal tore me apart. I was still picking up the pieces emotionally and mentally when Vanessa entered my life like a breath of fresh air. We met on Facebook dating. At first, I wasn't looking for anything serious, just a distraction from the heartbreak. Vanessa was charming, funny, and beautiful, and she seemed to know exactly how to lift my spirits. We started chatting late into the night, exchanging stories about our lives, our goals, our hurts. She understood me in ways I hadn't expected. The connection felt immediate, like some force of nature had brought us together. After only a few weeks of talking, we decided to meet in person. I didn't know what to expect. Was I rushing into something? But from the moment we saw each other, it was like we'd known each other for years. There was an unspoken bond between us, an understanding that we both needed something new, something different, to heal from our pasts. I should have been more cautious. I should have taken the time to truly get to know her before letting myself fall so hard, so fast. But when you're recovering from a broken heart, sometimes you mistake comfort for love. At the time, Vanessa was everything I thought I needed. The honeymoon phase. The first few months of our relationship were blissful. We couldn't stay apart for long. We texted all day, and when we weren't together, we were planning when we would see each other next. It felt good to be with someone who seemed to care about me deeply. I thought Vanessa and I shared the same dreams about love, family, and the future. But in hindsight, there were signs even then, small cracks that I ignored because I didn't want to see them. I was still estranged from my family. After my breakup, my family had taken my ex's side, which devastated me. They allowed her to stay at their house, even after I found out about the affair. The pain of their betrayal was still raw, and Vanessa seemed to offer a solution. She gave me someone to lean on, someone to build a new life with. We moved in together quickly, finding a temporary place in a hotel while we figured things out. I still had my son to think about, and staying close to him was my priority. Vanessa seemed to understand that, at least at first. But soon, life became more complicated, moving in with her mother. After a few months, we decided to move in with Vanessa's mother. The town was about 2 hours away from my son, which concerned me, but I convinced myself that it was a temporary solution, a way to save money while we got back on our feet. It seemed like the responsible thing to do. That's when things started to change. Vanessa was no longer the carefree, loving woman I thought I knew. The first sign came out of nowhere. We had picked up some takeout, and I forgot to order onions on her burger. Something so small, so trivial. But her reaction was explosive. She hurled her 7-Up at me, soaking me from head to toe. I was stunned. I had never seen her so angry before, especially over something so minor. I told myself it was just a bad day, that everyone has moments when they lose their temper, but that was just the beginning. Over the next few weeks, her temper flared up more frequently. I'd say something innocent, and she'd snap at me, accusing me of things I didn't understand. There were times when she would break down crying, apologizing for her outbursts, telling me she didn't know why she got so angry. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to think we could get past these rough patches. Then came the night that changed everything. We were arguing about money, again, and she lost control. She hit me. Her mother, who was in the room at the time, did nothing. In fact, she seemed to encourage it, telling Vanessa that I deserved it. I didn't fight back. I couldn't, and I was too shocked, too hurt. The physical pain was nothing compared to the emotional blow. How had things gone so wrong? Financial struggles, and my desperate mistake. Money was a constant source of stress. Vanessa wasn't working, and we were living off my savings, which were dwindling fast. Her mother had debts that she expected me to help with, and the cost of living with them was higher than I anticipated. It felt like we were sinking, drowning in bills with no way out. I made a mistake, one that would haunt me for the rest of my life. Desperation clouded my judgment, and I committed a felony. I was caught and ended up serving 3 months in jail. It was the darkest time of my life. I was terrified of what would happen to my son, to my relationship with Vanessa, to my future. While I was in jail, Vanessa stayed with her mother. She promised she would keep things together for us, that she would wait for me. But when I got out, the truth came crashing down. Vanessa admitted that she had gone on a date while I was locked up. She said it was nothing, just a kiss. But I didn't believe her. My gut told me there was more, so I started looking into it. I found out that it wasn't just one date. It wasn't just one man. Vanessa had been seeing several men while I was in jail, and some of the messages I found on her phone were far more than innocent flirtation. Confronting the truth. When I confronted Vanessa, she tried to lie at first, but I had too much evidence. Eventually, she broke down and admitted to everything. The betrayal hit me like a freight train. I had loved this woman, trusted her with everything, and she had been lying to me for months. I didn't know how to process it. I stayed with her, even after I found out the full extent of her infidelity, because I thought I could fix things. I thought I could save our relationship. But deep down, I knew it was over. I couldn't leave, not yet. There were the kids, my son and my daughter with her, and her 3 kids from previous relationships. I had grown to love her children like they were my own, and I couldn't bear the thought of leaving them. They deserved stability, and I didn't want to be the one to take that away from them. The pressure to provide. After I got out of jail, finding work was nearly impossible. It turns out that adding a felony to your resume doesn't make you a top candidate for most jobs. But Vanessa didn't care. She wanted me to bring in money, and when I couldn't, the tension between us grew unbearable. She started asking for more things. New clothes, money for the kids, trips we couldn't afford. I felt like I was constantly failing her, no matter how hard I tried. It was never enough. She would compare me to other men, telling me how they provided for their families, how they were better husbands and fathers than I was. It stung, but I tried to push through. I wanted to be the man she needed, but it was clear I couldn't meet her expectations. The intimacy between us also became strained. I'd go away for work, when I could find it, and come back to find Vanessa distant. She would assure me that everything was fine, but I could sense something was off. Her smile, once so genuine, now seemed like a mask hiding secrets. I tried to ask her if there was something wrong, but she'd brush it off, telling me I was overreacting. One night, after coming home late from work, I noticed a strange cologne on her. When I asked her about it, she laughed and said she had bought it for me. But it didn't feel right. The more I thought about it, the more uneasy I became. I wanted to trust her, but my gut told me otherwise. The final betrayal. It all came crashing down one afternoon. Vanessa had left her phone on the table while she was in the shower. I hadn't intended to snoop, but something inside me compelled me to check. I found messages, hundreds of them, from different men. Some were local, some from out of town. The messages were explicit, filled with details I didn't want to read, but I couldn't stop scrolling. She had been cheating on me for months, maybe longer. And worse, she had been getting money from these men. The truth hit me harder than I could have imagined. Vanessa wasn't just cheating, she was living a double life, using me for stability with the kids, while she pursued relationships with other men. She had manipulated me from the beginning, playing on my vulnerabilities, knowing I wouldn't leave because of the kids. That night, I sat her down and confronted her. At first, she denied it, but I had seen too much. When I pressed her, she finally confessed, and then she said something that shook me to my core. She wasn't sure if our youngest daughter was mine. She had been with another man around the time our daughter was conceived, and so she never really knew for sure who the father was.
The escape plan.
I knew I had to leave. I had been planning it for months, secretly stashing away money from the odd jobs I managed to pick up, but hearing that my daughter might not even be mine was the final blow. That night, I packed a bag, grabbed the kids, and left. I didn't know where we were going, but I knew we couldn't stay there. I couldn't live in lies anymore. I had to find a way to rebuild my life for my children and for myself. I had no idea what my next steps were. I was angry, hurt, and terrified of the future. I hadn't told Vanessa I wanted a divorce yet, but I knew I couldn't go back. I needed help. That's when I reached out to a lawyer to get some sense of what is next. I decided to schedule the first meeting with a divorce lawyer. The first meeting with my lawyer was overwhelming. My whole life has been crumbling around me, and I needed to figure out how to pick up the pieces. I had so many questions running through my mind. Questions for the divorce dispatcher. How do I protect my assets? What happens if our daughter isn't mine? How do I find out and de-establish paternity if I'm listed on the birth certificate? What about custody? I've raised her other kids like they were my own. Do I have any rights to them? How do I prove the cheating in court? And will it even matter? Can I file for divorce even though I haven't told her yet? What will happen to my criminal record? Will it affect my chances of getting custody?
Hello, divorce dispatcher here. You rang? It is important to get those burning questions you have answered, and I can see Brandon is dealing with quite a complicated situation. Let's break it down. 1. Protecting your assets. If you're concerned about protecting your assets, it's crucial to document everything. Bank statements, shared accounts, any money that was moved around. It's all relevant. Depending on your state, you might have the option to freeze assets to prevent your spouse from draining them during the divorce process. Be prepared for full financial disclosure as part of the proceedings. 2. Paternity concerns and de-establishing paternity. If you're unsure whether your daughter is biologically yours, a paternity test is the first step. You can request one during divorce proceedings. If you're listed on the birth certificate, de-establishing paternity may be more complicated. Depending on your state, even if you're not the biological father, you could still be held responsible for child support. A lawyer can help you file a petition to challenge paternity, but acting quickly is essential. Timing and state laws will heavily influence how and if you can remove yourself from legal obligations. 3. Custody of non-biological children. The children Vanessa brought into the marriage are legally hers. Unfortunately, unless you adopted them, you might not have legal standing for custody. However, if you've been their primary caregiver, you could potentially argue for visitation rights based on the best interests of the children. 4. Adultery and court. While cheating is morally devastating, it doesn't always have a huge legal impact. Most states follow no-fault divorce laws, meaning that you don't need to prove wrongdoing to file. However, if her infidelity negatively impacted the children, perhaps by neglecting them while pursuing these relationships, it could be relevant in a custody battle. 5. Filing for divorce without telling her. Yes, you can file for divorce without giving her a heads up. Once you file, she will be served with papers and can respond. It's always better to consult with a lawyer first and have a plan in place before filing. 6. Your criminal record and custody. This is where things get tricky. A felony can affect your custody rights, especially if it's recent. However, courts generally consider the best interests of the child. If you've been a stable and loving parent, that will weigh heavily in your favor, but the details of the conviction will matter.
The custody battle. The custody battle was brutal. Vanessa fought me every step of the way, using my criminal record to paint me as an unfit father. She brought up everything: my time in jail, my felony, even my past relationship. She tried to make me the villain, even though she was the one who had been unfaithful. But I had the evidence on my side. The private investigator I hired had gathered proof of her infidelity, and the court took that into account. The paternity test came back, confirming what I had feared. Our daughter wasn't mine. That news shattered me. I had raised that little girl, loved her like she was my own. Now I had to face the reality that she wasn't biologically mine. In the end, the court awarded me primary custody of my son and daughter since I was on the birth certificate. Vanessa was granted supervised visitation with our children together, which was bittersweet. It wasn't the outcome I had hoped for, but it was better than nothing. Vanessa got custody back of her other 3 sons since they were not biologically mine. I made sure that the kids could still see each other and have contact consistently. This was devastating to have them in separate homes. Moving forward, after the trial, I tried to rebuild my life. The betrayal had taken its toll on me, and it wasn't easy to move on. I started seeing a therapist working through the pain of my daughter not being biologically mine. My children needed stability, and I wanted to be the best father I could for them both. Vanessa, on the other hand, seemed to spiral out of control. I heard rumors that she was dating again, but it didn't seem like it was going well. She struggled with the reality of losing custody and made reckless decisions. I knew she was hurting, but I couldn't let her drag me down any further. Eventually, I started dating again. It was hard. I had major trust issues, and I didn't want to get hurt again. But I knew I couldn't stay single forever. I met someone new, a kind, patient woman who understood my situation. We took things slowly, and it felt good to be with someone who didn't try to manipulate me or use me.
Divorce Dispatcher here again. You rant with my final thoughts. All right, folks, let's wrap this up with some key legal takeaways from Brandon's story. 1. Custody battles and felonies. A felony can complicate custody, but it doesn't automatically disqualify someone from being a good parent. Courts consider the nature of the crime, how long ago it occurred, and whether the parents have made efforts to rehabilitate. 2. Infidelity and custody. Cheating doesn't always sway custody decisions unless it directly impacts the children's well-being. In Brandon's case, Vanessa's neglect while pursuing other relationships played a role in the court's decision. 3. Paternity and custody rights. Even if you're not the biological parent, if you've acted as the parent, you may still have to assert what is sometimes referred to as third-party custody, or in loco parentis, who may be able to establish rights. Courts will always look at what's in the best interest of the child. 4. Emotional resilience. Moving forward after a betrayal like this isn't easy, but as Brandon shows, it's possible to heal and rebuild. Therapy, a solid support system, and time are key to getting through it. Final thoughts for the audience. What would you do in Brandon's situation? Have you experienced something similar? Share your thoughts in the comments, and remember, if you're going through a tough time, don't hesitate to seek legal advice and support. This is Divorce Dispatcher signing off. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please comment, like, and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you won't miss our next video. Your support means a lot, and we love hearing from you in the comments. Divorce Dispatch is signing off duty. Until next time, take care.